Preview season rolls on here on this fine Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. It's all about the Missouri Tigers today. Can they improve? A 10-win season last year. Are they able to take that next step, get above, and even into the playoffs, even though they're replacing a lot offensively? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about what looks to be a pretty solid defense coming back, and just how the Elijah Drinkwitz tenure sets up for the future. We got all that more here on Armchair Analysis. Again, Thursday, July 3rd. Hope you guys are having a good week so far. Excited for 4th of July weekend. Really pumped for that, obviously. And really just excited to continue going. I mean, we've had a lot of really good teams lately, and Missouri's not really any less. There's just some question marks around what they're going to be and how they're going to be able to push forward. But I think that this is probably going to be one of the more controversial predictions I do. Just plain and simple. I think it's going to be one of the more controversial predictions. Let's go ahead and take a look at this team. And to preview the 2025 season, we got to look at 2024. This team last year was, again, a 10-win team. 10-3, 5-3 in SEC play. Averaged almost 29 points per game. It was 28.9 points per game. 56th in college football. They allowed 20.4 points per game on average. That was 20th, a top 20 defense last year in scoring. Turnover margin per game was plus 0.6. That was top 25 as well, 24th. A lot of that credit can go to Brady Cook for being so solid, so really consistent in taking care of the football and really being a good leader of the offense. When you look at this team now, it's led really by a top 7 portal class, and it was, in fact, 7th in the country in the portal. Number 20 recruiting class, which is really good, is led by quarterback Matt Zollers, who I think people are really excited to see what he can do. But when you look at all of that, you look at all the inexperience, especially at the quarterback position, who's going to step up and be the guy who takes over this offense? We can talk about Matt Zollers being an option. Bo Prabula comes over from Penn State. Will he be the option? Or the third option is Sam Horn, who people were really excited about when he came in to Missouri, a former blue chip prospect. It hasn't really panned out yet, hasn't become the guy, but could end up making that decision and being the player that I think a lot of people expected from him. But in terms of change, it's not just quarterback. This entire offense has a lot. At running back, they bring in Ahmad Hardy to be the presumed lead back. Coming over from Louisiana Monroe, he's a top 10 player in my top 10 running backs list in 2025, and I'm expecting that to stay that way through the season. But Jamal Roberts is expected to be the backup, play a pretty solid role in this team. At wide receiver, you got Kevin Coleman Jr. coming over from Mississippi State. He was kind of the big target that they went and got in the receiving room as not so much of a replacement for Luther Burden, but to put together a receiving room that could, again, I say this a lot in preview season when we talk about a big name player who goes out, but how do you replace him in the aggregate? I think Kevin Coleman Jr. is a big part of that potential plan. Joshua Manning and Marquise Johnson are here in return from 2024. Then you also have Donovan Olugbodi. I believe I said that right. Again, I'm not great at pronunciation, especially with some names, so forgive me. But a true freshman coming in, who I think is going to be really fun to watch as well. At tight end, you got Brett Norfleet coming back. He's going to be... I'm not sure how exactly his use is going to look, but I do think that he is going to play a significant role. Do I want to, dare I say, almost like the sixth man role in basketball? That's kind of what he's going to be, just there as that backup option on the majority of pass plays, on run plays. What is he going to mean to this offense? Forgive me. What's he going to mean to this offense, and how is he going to push forward? That's kind of what I'm looking for there from Norfleet. This offense, the offensive line specifically, returns 3 out of 5 players from the 2024 roster. and they make up a lot in the pass block category. But really, in general, actually, their run blocking stats last year were fantastic too. As a matter of fact, PFF graded the offensive line unit number 2 in the country in pass blocking at an 82.6. This team was graded 17th out of 68 power, and that's number 2 out of the Power 5, Power 4 plus Notre Dame. So 2 out of 68. They were graded 17th out of 68 in pass blocking, which was a 76.2 grade. Take what you want from PFF grades, because typically that's based on like your production and your expectation. But understand that they overachieve year after year. This is an offensive line. This is a unit that, if there's anything we can say about the Missouri teams over the last few years, it's that their offensive line have stayed consistent and been really good under Coach Drinkwitz. Which leads to, how did the quarterbacks play behind such a good offensive line? Again, Bo Prabula, we have not seen really much of in big game situations. We've seen him in garbage time at Penn State because he's behind Drew Aller, who has been healthy. Sam Horn, we've seen the most of over the last couple of years. But even Sam Horn, we really don't know what he's going to bring to the table on a 12-game basis. And then Matt Zollers is a true freshman, and I really doubt that they're going to throw Zollers out there if they don't have to. Doesn't mean they won't. I would be surprised. But the quarterback position makes up probably 90% of my question and hesitation to be really high on this team as a playoff contender or even an SEC contender, which it seems that the majority would agree, at least in terms of like betting odds and stuff like that, this team is 12th out of 16th in SEC odds to win the conference. This team has some decent odds in terms of winning a national championship compared to the rest of the country. But their odds to win the SEC are bottom third. But yet they still have an over-under of 7.5. So where are things missing? That's kind of the question. And part of it's a tough schedule. Part of it's just, again, things they don't have offensively. The defense, on the other hand, going to be headed up by defensive coordinator Corey Batoon for another year. Batoon came in to replace Blake Baker as the defensive coordinator when he left for LSU, and has really done a great job of keeping things up. I think that he's done really, really well at just putting together a solid group who knows how to play as a unit and knows how to really just get the job done, no matter how you look at it. They graded last year at top 25 in the Power 4, 25th out of 68, with an 86.1 defensive grade. Again, take that PFF grade how you wish. I just like to use those because it gives you an idea of how they performed last year in terms of expectations and where they landed. They brought in a handful of notable transfers, and some of these you're going to sit back, one of these specifically, I think you're going to sit back and say, okay, how much does that really mean? The other three you're going to understand. The first one to me, and I think really the two most important, are the linebackers they bring in, which is Josiah Trotter from West Virginia and Damon Wilson of Georgia. Those two are going to pair up and I think really lead a front seven that kind of needs it really going into this year. We don't really know. The one place we questioned was their linebacker room. I think all those questions are answered. In the secondary, safety, Jalen Catalon comes into his fourth school. He's done pretty well at the other three, and truth be told, I don't really know what the change has been over those four schools in the last few years. Started out at Arkansas, was a star player for Arkansas, went to Texas, and things didn't work out there. He went to UNLV and played for Barry Odom, and decided now he's going to play for Missouri for his likely final year of eligibility. He'll be interesting to watch and see how he develops in this defense, but he's one of the few that I think can make this move work. The last guy I wanted to talk about in terms of transfers and notable, I think, are going to make a difference is Nate Johnson, the defensive end from Appalachian State. Comes over, going to be, I think, a really solid bench guy who can come out on the field and make plays at any time that he's put in position. He's going to be one of the more underrated portal ads of the offseason, especially in this Missouri roster. But I think Nate Johnson's a name you got to keep in mind on this defense. Returning leaders, really the biggest thing is Tristan Newsom leads tackles and tackles for loss. 71 tackles, 7 for loss. You have Zion Young and Chris McClellan with 2.5 sacks each returning. You have Drayden Norwood and Toriano Pride both had 2 picks last year, and then, man, forgive me, Dalen Larnell coming back. Did I say that right? Dalen Carnell. Sorry, again, I cannot read my handwriting sometimes, and I apologize for that. Dalen Carnell with 2 forced fumbles last year. This is a team that I think is going to have a lot of success defensively. I would expect top 25. It would almost be silly not to expect a top 25 defense again with how much they return on top of what they bring in to fill the gaps. It's going to be a really solid team defensively. As I typically do, I write a few thoughts on this team, and here's what I had to say when I was putting together this preview. What will this offense look like? Bo Prabula, Sam Horn, Matt Zollers. It's a cliche answer, but the quarterback position determines this team's success. Defense will be good once again, as I just kind of said. But it is really kind of it's the cop-out answer is quarterback, but when you look at this team and the inexperience and the lack of really meaningful game reps, what will they be able to do? My personal take, Sam Horn's going to be the main quarterback, and then Bo Prabula is going to be kind of a gadget player, comes in, plays in random positions, and just adds a different element to the offense. But I 100% predict this is going to be Sam Horn's job when the season starts. Looking at this schedule, and I'm going to pull it up here for you guys to see, it's tough. This is not necessarily easy given last year and really the improvements made over the offseason. Now, some of these teams could fall flat, and I think that's certainly understandable to assume or even think that not everybody's going to live up to expectations. But what about Missouri not living up to expectations? They're over under 7.5. But again, they're great. They're ranked 12th out of 16 in odds to win the conference. That plus 85, that's supposed to be plus 8,500, not plus 85,000, I'm sorry. But plus 20,000 to win a national championship, they're just not a team that's in that conversation. But they could be. The reason that's plus 20,000 is because they're not as far down there as the plus 100,000 schools like Vandy, Mississippi State. You know, they're not a team that's just completely out of the conversation to make the playoff. But there's too many question marks to make them a heavy, more of a favorite in the odds market. So when you look at this schedule, they start with Central Arkansas, which is not necessarily going to be easy, but it's a FCS game you should win. And realistically, your non-conference schedule are FCS games you should win, or lower level games you should win, minus Kansas. See, that's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But Louisiana and UMass, I really don't have too many doubts on those two. But you look at the rest of this, the SEC slate is South Carolina, Alabama, at Auburn, at Vanderbilt, Texas A&M at home, Mississippi State at home, Oklahoma, and Arkansas on the road to close out the year. That's brutal. And it's going to be tougher and tougher, especially to stay healthy. And again, to stay consistent on the offensive side of the football. So let's go ahead and take a stab at the predictions here. And I'm going to go ahead and just put that win on the board. They'll get the first Thursday night win against Central Arkansas. They'll move on and face Kansas. And if you've seen my Kansas preview, you kind of know where I'm going. I just think that this Kansas team, at this point, especially a healthy Jalen Daniels, they're going to have themselves kind of figured out, understood what they need to do and what they're going to do. And Missouri's just still going to be answering a lot of questions in terms of what they brought in the portal and how they're going to fit together. That's 100% the only reason I'm taking Kansas in this game. Louisiana, they're going to get the win, as they should. Louisiana's kind of been a team that's been diced up by the portal recently in the last few years. Don't really expect them to be a overall contender. South Carolina at home. This is just simply a case of one team being much better than the other, or in my mind, much better than the other. I think that the South Carolina team, the offense is what's going to push them over the top, especially if they can get Russell Faison to be a part of this team. They are going to be really fun to watch, offensively explosive. And the thing is that their defense is going to play up as well. Going to be a fun one to watch, but I am taking South Carolina to get the win there. You get a win over UMass, and then you go to, well, you stay at home and face Alabama. You don't play a road game until game 7 of the season. It's kind of crazy to me, but they're going to get the loss to Bama. I just think that this Bama team, they are beatable though, and I think that at this point, I think that the most obvious loss is going to be South Carolina, and I think you can flip Kansas or Alabama into wins. It really depends on how Ty Simpson, assumptive quarterback, develops and works himself out. Depends on how this Alabama team works themselves out, and truth be told, depends on how Alabama looks on defense. Kane Womack, this team last year was not great, but yet they still shut out the Missouri offense that had a better quarterback at the helm, and I would argue was just overall a little bit more talented. So it's a tough way to feel, but for right now, I'm taking Alabama to win that one. You go on the road to Auburn. First road game couldn't be tougher, especially coming out of a loss to Bama. I think they're going to lose again. Just really buying a little bit more into Jackson Arnold and the change of scenery and what he's got around him at Auburn. The ability, I think, of Hugh Freeze to also allow Jackson Arnold to use his legs and be more dynamic as a runner at the quarterback position. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, too. I'm going to take Auburn to win that. Go on the road again to face Vanderbilt. And I'm going to give them the win here. I think that I think Vandy's going to be figured out, and I think Missouri's going to kind of start to put themselves back together and play much better defensively. Maybe not even much better. Maybe just play a little better defensively. Keep in mind, bringing in those transfers, it's going to take them some time to work together as well. But on top of that, I think the offense is going to start to kind of find their rhythm and roll. The issue is it's just a tough back half of the schedule that if you don't figure it out early, you're going to be in for a little bit of trouble. You get a home game against Texas A&M, which I think is winnable. I'm not high on Marcel Reed. I'm not really high on the A&M offense, but I do think that they are going to be consistent. I think that's the best way to put it. And I think that consistency is going to matter in this game specifically with two teams that have really solid defenses that can keep this thing below 20. I'm taking A&M to win. I just think the offense does a little more experience on their end. I'll get a win over Mississippi State to make it a 5-4 record going into a 5-5 record going into the final 2 games of the year on the road against Oklahoma and Arkansas. Which, if you could have pulled one of these at home, you may have pulled an upset, or maybe you did anyways on the road. Not against Oklahoma though. I think this Oklahoma team's got a lot to prove and a lot going for them. Already kind of previewed them and explained why I'm so high on them and why I feel the way I feel with them. But Oklahoma is going to get the win there, meaning bowl eligibility. That comes down to this final game against Arkansas on the road. And I'm going back and forth, and this is probably going to change before we get to my actual conference standings predictions. But I'm taking Arkansas to get the upset here, leading to a 5-7 season and 2-6 in conference, which is a huge drop off. That is a 50%. Well, that's 50% of the win total from last year, dropping down to 5, and it's just, it's going to be tough, I think. This is not a team that I think is particularly bad. It's hard for me to buy into them because I'm also bought into the majority of who I have them losing to. And the ones that I'm not, give me a second. Man, I thought I'd have enough time to get through that. Uh, Point being that, that it's going to be, it's a tough road, but there are winnable games here that I gave losses to. I think the Kansas game is winnable. I think Auburn can be winnable. Texas A&M I think is winnable, especially at home. And then Arkansas at the end of the year. I mean, that's 4 games. You could turn this around and maybe be a 9-3 team. It's really hard for me to buy that. I'm buying on the low end. I'm obviously taking the under. And Missouri fans, you're probably not going to like me, and I'm sorry. I really am, because this is a team and a coaching staff that I like a lot. And when I give you this 5-7 prediction, understand that this 5-7 prediction kind of falls into, understand what I'm about to say here. It reminds me a lot of the way Michigan sat when the season, in the COVID season. They went 2-4. They canceled a couple games. Of course, everybody made fun. They backed out of the Ohio State game. They went 2-4, and they followed that up with 3 straight 10 and I believe 11 win seasons or more. Obviously 12 wins, getting Big Ten championships, and even an undefeated national championship. Missouri has set themselves up recruiting in the recruiting style, in the way that Eli Drinkwitz likes to put teams together. This year is probably not the championship year, but I think with Matt Zollers at the helm at quarterback, and what they've brought in and what they're going to continue to bring in and do in recruiting, I don't think this 5-7 year hinders any of that. And I think what's going to do is put this group together. They're going to be cohesive. They're going to be bonded through losses, bonded through a tough season. And they're going to come back next year and maybe be legit contenders to win the SEC. And maybe if not next year, I think 2027 is a year that they may be finding their way to Atlanta again. So this is not a I'm down on Missouri and they're going to continue to be down. This is the calm, or maybe even the sunny day before we get the real good out of nowhere storm. So that's kind of my thought there. And that's what I feel about this team. I think they can go anywhere from 5-9. I don't really see 10 wins again in the regular season, which they did. I don't believe they had last year either, if I'm not mistaken. They did not. They were a 9-win team in the regular season last year. So this is not a 10-win team in the regular season, but I do think that they have potential to get to 9. We'll see. I'd like to be wrong, personally, because it will prove to me that Coach Drinkwitz is exactly what I believe that he's going to be and turn into and be remembered as, really, when it comes down to the end of his time at Missouri. So if you're new around here, leave a like, subscribe, even if I frustrated you. Even if I gave your team a bad record, leave a like and subscribe. We're doing 68 teams in 68 days. Well, 69 days, because I missed a day earlier in June when I was at home with some family stuff going on. But I'm pumped. I am excited to see what this college football season brings. We've had massive amounts of growth in the last couple of months since we came back, and we're in the push for 100 subscribers right now. We're only 4 away as of me making this video. So please leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know where I'm wrong, and let me know who is going to step up for this team and truly make them a contender in the SEC. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down there. Comment section is always for discussion. And with that said, tomorrow we got Boston College as we hit back to the ACC, and I'm excited to talk about Bill O'Brien's squad and what they could be this year, with a lot of question marks, but I think a lot of potential at the same time to maybe be a bit of a scary team. As we roll through there, though, we've got a handful more videos planned out, and we're getting kind of to the meat and potatoes, to the contenders, or starting to get to the possible contenders, or maybe even pretenders going forward. So I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are too. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.